first step is to actually identify what the challenges are, where we want to get to, let's say 10, 20 years time, properly documented, and then we focus on developing these young ones to accomplish that particular agenda. Now, if that is done, then those in academia, civil society organizations can be better equipped because then they know the direction. And if there's a need for any training, if there's a need for a change in syllables, curriculum, style of delivery, content, even in the classroom, then we will be better positioned to actually come up with something comprehensive to address those needs. So identifying the need is key, and also identifying the kind of training requirement to help us develop those talents that we actually want to have. Now, whenever young people try to aspire to leadership, often, I don't know whether it is on their part or on the part of those around them, but I believe it's both ways. There is always the problem of being afraid to make mistakes. And the encouragement that I give to young people is that, look, this is a time to make all the mistakes. It is not when you get into leadership positions that you make mistakes, because that will be very fatal. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. Make mistakes and learn from your mistakes so that you can become a better person. It is also about investing in information. I always tell my students that the amount of information you have will determine the quality of decisions you take. If your information repertoire is just up to this level, then you can be sure that your decision is just up to that particular level and not beyond that. But if you invest in acquisition of information and your store of knowledge is rich enough, then you can be sure that your decisions will also be better at solving problems. You don't have to be intimidated by anybody. There are instances where young people assume leadership position and then the older ones try to intimidate them. I always say that we have moved away from the animal kingdom where physical strength is what matters. We are in a knowledge economy, and knowledge up here is power. So somebody can be big physically, but if you invest in knowledge, you can control the biggest person that has ever existed.
To take over the world. Let me put our topic today in context. Africa has a young population of 226 million. This is expected to double by the year 2050. It will be twice of that of Asia's young population. And in fact, Africa is the only region in the world where the youth population is increasing. So there is a task ahead of us. How do we position the youth to bridge the developmental gap we have now? Hence, our topic for today, developing strategic young leaders for Africa's future. Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The first thing we will talk about today will be looking at your vision for Africa in your own way. Where do you want Africa to be in the next 50 years? I'll start from you, Mr. Osei Mensah. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, panel, distinguished invited guests. Thank you for the opportunity once again. This is quite an insightful platform created for us to dissect issues pertaining to young leaders and our visions and how we think we can make a better Africa. Perceiving Africa in how many years?
In the next 50 years.
In the next 50 years, wow. I would take it a bit slowly. 50 years is quite an age, and if I'm to make a fair analysis of where I want to see Africa to be in the next 50 years, I will take it in decades, and let's say for the first decade, looking at how progressive certain African countries are fast growing, like for instance Rwanda, I think that if we set up a better structure, that will ensure that the young leaders within our socio-economic space can take leadership roles. Because, for instance, if you look at Africa, most of our leaders belong to the aged class, and few young leaders are being given the opportunity to come up with innovative ideas that we think it can help grow the economy. And for that, when the aged die, what happens? The knowledge that they have acquired over the years are gone, and that is it. And if you agree with me, we must try to separate politics from administration, as propounded by the early works of Woodrow Wilson, separating politics from administration. The politician will always want to dominate the space of young leaders and incorporate the ideas that they have, which mainly has been trivial or trend on their selfish interest. If you are able to incorporate leadership skills into the leaders on the principles that will grow the economy, I am of the belief that for the next 10 years, 20 years, we can make a better Africa where we want to live without necessarily wanting to go and make pastures somewhere in the Western world and all that. I will not want to speak much on giving the age range. I think that even within the next 20 years, if the youth is being given the opportunity to come out with the ideas that they have, it can help rural Africa, and we want to be at the Africa that we want to see, the Africa that we want to be. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you. Mr. Ajiman.
Thank you, and welcome to every nice person here. I believe that in the next 50 years, we'll have a continent of rich human resources, poised with technology, integrity, respect, responsibility, and pioneers. So I want to see that Africa where we have what it takes to compete internationally, technology, how to do things better and faster, how others innovate and invent materials, and we import them. We can do so here. We have the youths who adhere strictly to the rules, regulations, and don't do corrupt things, and will be filled with integrity. We'll have people who are good at what they do, the best of it all, the pioneers in here, and finally, respect for ourselves as human beings. Thank you.
Thank you. Nanakia.
Thank you very much, and a good morning to everyone here. Okay, so I think Africa has set a future for itself already, but it states that within its future, it wants to see an integrated, prosperous, and a peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens. But I feel the standard wasn't really set well. Its citizens, which citizens, and so I'm looking at rather, like our topic is developing the youth to really be the force behind the future of Africa. So I'm looking at an Africa where the youth have the voice to speak, and in the voice to speak, they are also aware of the future of Africa. That's what I see.
Thank you. Mr. Adontin?
Yes, a good morning to everyone once again. For me, in the next 50 years, what I look forward to Africa getting to is to see an independent continent that can rely on its own resources to advance its own interests. An Africa where we can sit at the bargaining table and speak and present a bargaining chip where we can say that this is what we have to present. This is what we relied on, our own resources, our own people to bring up, to present to the table. Not an Africa that can sit at the table and have nothing to present really, but just our pitifulness. So in the next 50 years, I am hoping that based on Agenda 2063 as propounded, that we can drive change through our youth and empower youth, because as it was said earlier, we have a very youthful population. So how can we capitalize on this very youthful population to give them the opportunity to explore, to develop their own self, to build their own self-confidence, to build their own capacity to stand up to global competition. So I believe that in the next 50 years, I want to see an independent Africa.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chumasi.
Okay, thank you very much, and good morning to us all. I think in the next 50 years, Africa would have to be one of the most educated continents. We all agree that poverty has taken over this continent. And if we want to eradicate that, I'm sure that most of us would have to agree that we would have to educate our citizens, our youth, to an extent where they will drive industrialization and then technology. Again, in the next 50 years, I'm sure that the youth and people of Africa must have trust in the leaders that they elect. They must repose trust in them. The leaders give them the trust that they give them. And then again, I am looking at the fact that in the next 50 years, Africa must be able to eliminate corruption, where cronyism, nepotism, and all those factors that does not help in the development of our local economies and economies in Africa are eradicated. And we have a solid and vibrant youth front that when the people speak, they know that they are giving their leaders direction as to where to go. And we won't vote on ethnicity and family and all those issues.
Okay, thank you very much. I wanted to, we cannot talk about ourselves when we do not know what we want for ourselves. Okay, so that is quite impressive, an idea, and then the vision you have for Africa. In Africa, we have the mean age for leaders, let's say presidents, it's 63 years. And if you look at the mean age for the youth is 19 years. So it's quite a gap. We have 60-year-olds managing or deciding for a quite huge youth population. We need to disrupt this status quo. The question we normally get, or the challenge we face, people say that the youth are not prepared. I don't think, do you share that same idea?
So this same question, just recently at the All Africa Student Union, we're having the same discussion that, is it that there are positions for the youth to fill and that there are not enough qualified youth to fill these positions? Or probably these positions are not there and that we have a large, vast amount of youth who are well prepared to fill these positions. For me, I believe that looking even at this auditorium, we have a large number of youth who are well capable to handle things if they are entrusted to them. But for that to happen, as we are discussing developing young strategic leaders, I believe that we have to step up as young people. A lot has been done, but more still needs to be done, because I believe that the positions are there, but can we be trusted? Most of us have sold our conscience, permit me to say, have sold our conscience in the sense that even when we know the right thing is to be done, we do not want to do it because we are afraid. Afraid is in quotes. We are afraid of what is likely to happen to our future. And in this sense, by our future, I mean our individual own selves. We do not think of the repercussions it might have on others. So we are selfish enough to think of our own selves and to disregard what our actions might also have on others. From my strategy class, from what I remember, I know that strategic decisions have to do with long-term, has to do with the entirety of the organization's resources. So if you are looking at building or developing young strategic leaders, then we are saying that our youth as at now, our young leaders as at now, whenever they are taking decisions, should not think of their own selves, of how it will benefit them and their close allies or their immediate family. House lights worrying. Okay, so we should think of how our actions as at now would have repercussions in the future, and as to how these actions will help our continent, will help our country, and will help the development of this continent in the future and in the future yet to come. Thank you.
Ajiman, are we prepared, the youth?
All right, so I would want to bear with Adontin about the fact that the youths are not being open enough to opportunities. And it's quite sad that you find the leaders of these days, how older they are, willing to involve students in anything that they are doing to learn with them. Now, mentorship comes to mind now, where how many students or how many young people in Ghana are willing to go out there under the feet of every leader who is older than us just to seek guidance or how things are done, so we can also toe that same feet when they are not there. We don't avail ourselves to these matters. It means that perhaps leadership or responsibility is not our priority. That is quite sad to say. I'm a young person, and I've been in that stage before where nothing mattered to me. I didn't care about leadership. I never cared about drafting roles. I never cared about responsibility. But I realized that there are people waiting with arms open to involve the young people to learn from them. And if you are able to avail yourself to these young leaders or these old leaders, you will learn a lot. And perhaps you'll be the potential person to take care after they are gone. But for now, with the statistics we're having and with the information we're receiving from young leaders and how they react a bit naive to social matters, it tells that we may not be ready, but we will be ready if we are being given that hand stretch to step up and get involved.
Thank you. Nanakia, are we, the youth, prepared as at now to take over the mantle?
Prepared, I would say yes, we are prepared. Because now, if you should speak with every single youth in this room, if nothing at all, they've identified one, a problem they would want to solve. Two, they have more or less like a laid down process of solving that issue. If not for all of them, at least majority of them understand the problems the country is facing. But now the question is that how do they get there? Okay, I would side with my brother from an angle that yes, we need leaders to mentor these people. But the question is that when you get close to these leaders, looking at their long-term plan of being in office for a longer period of time, are they also ready to really give in these youth to come and occupy the position? Because the one thing we've seen in the country is that although the youth are willing and prepared, once they get close to these people, they start feeling threatened. And so what they do is that they either buy their conscience, they either prevent them from getting to the position, but by really distracting their focus. And so at the end of the day, people are prepared, people are poised for action, but when they get there, their distraction, their focus are really distracted. And so I would say that as it stands now, the youth are prepared, but the systems are not allowing the youth to really go out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's clap for her. That was a beautiful submission. Okay, Mr. Chumasi, let me give a quick one to you. She made mention of the fact that the youth are selling their conscience to the leaders. This is a challenge.
Yes.
How do we move away from this particular issue that we find ourselves in?
Okay. Let me add up to what she just said. I think the issue of if the youth are ready to take over leadership is a matter of trust. We would want to go back and look at what some of the youth, when they were given opportunities, what they did. One will want to ask, is the person intelligent enough to think on his or her feet when he is given the opportunity to do the job? Most of the time, most of us are found wanting because we have not learned on the job. But if we are taking the opportunity to learn on the job or understudy somebody critically, I'm sure by 5 years' time, the person will be ready to serve. Now, we have not positioned ourselves well. Let me take a case study of the National Union of Ghana students. This is a union that is 55 going to 60. I'm sure if we should stand and boast, we can say that most of our people have come out to become politicians in our country. But then, the question is, what has happened to the National Union of Ghana students? Divided front, divided on partisan lines. Today, You meet, you interact with them, you tell them we want to arbitrate for you. The next moment, you know, somebody's godfather has called him to resign on the decision he or she has made. Then again, it brings back the question of trust. So if we give you a position in the near future, can we rely on you if your godfather calls on you? No. So we would need to go back. The youth of this country and Africa in general would have to sit down. Let the people understand that this is where we stand. We have positioned ourselves and we are ready for it. Now, I read when the Kolebu board was constituted, and we have the young MP for Koleklote, that's, sorry, what's the name? His name, Dr. Okoboy, as the board chairman. What came to mind was, this man has to make a case for us, the youth. Because I'm sure there are bigger, wiser, experienced people inside there, but he's going to chair it. We all know the current state of Kolebu. 2 years, 4 years from now, what is Dr. Okoboy going to do there? That will make a case for me and you to be given opportunity the next time. And I'm sure if each one of us here would believe in that, then the future is ours.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mensah, you are an SRC president, so you are in a position of trust. What are some of the challenges you face as a young leader?
Thank you very much. Yes, challenges I face as a young leader. It is true, the issue of trust is very, very prevalent. And if you are a youth and you are being given such an opportunity, there is already this perception that I think is highly perceived by the elderly. And sometimes it has to do with we, the youth. We need to be frank. When you are being given the opportunity, you realize that most of the times, the first thing they think is luxury. I mean, you realize that wealth that has taken their grandparents ages to acquire, by giving them the mantle, they will want to use 3 days, a year to acquire same. And when that happens, it breaches that kind of trust. It is already, and there is this elderly saying that not everyone can handle wealth, or let's say power. So coming into my school, some of the challenges, yes, this young guy, are you sure he's not chopping our money? When even there is no even money. So I think we will have to kind of incorporate a certain kind of leadership culture into us so that we can come out clearly and make our stance. This is us. We are ready and prepared to serve. You understand? We stand by the principles of ethical leadership, honesty, integrity, and what have you. And by we doing so, I think we can make our position clear. Like, look, we are also ready and prepared to serve, devoid of whichever perception that anyone will have about young leaders. Sometimes it is very difficult. When you want to make a decision, you may see the elderly will want to see you as a young guy coming up with such a decision. Do we even have to buy into it? Sometimes, no matter how well the decision may sound, they will want to bring in their own view. And you know that now there has been a change regime. The way the youth we perceive things to be, the kind of era that we are running, does not in a way also conform with the elderly. And when you want to do things to let's say please, not to please your people, but what the structures and systems that have been set for you conforms with, they might in a way also see it from a different angle. You understand? For instance, going into campaigning, you look at the needs that your students are demanding from you, that coming into office, do ABCD for us. You get power and come. You will see that you have your dean of students and some management persons who also taking it from a different view. And sometimes it makes it difficult for you as a leader, whether to go by what your people, your constituents, what they are demanding from you. Should you stand by them, or you should stick to the elderly, the decision that they want to superimpose upon you. And whenever you want to stand with your students, you realize that then it's kind of also bring you, some kind of conflict between yourself and management. And if you are that leader and you are in such a position, you have to be very, very careful. You could see failure staring at you, because definitely you will need the support of management to discharge your mandate successfully. And these are people telling you that we want you to do this. Your students at the other side are also asking, demanding something different that they think that is what they need. You understand? So as president and as a young leader, I think these are some of the challenges that I would say on behalf of every other SRC we face within our institutions.
Okay, hold on. Back to you. How have you handled the pressures that come from political leaders in the country as an SRC president?
Political, that is partisan pressure.
Yes.
Yes. Pressure, I think we as the leaders, we have our destiny into our hands. I do not believe that if you are a leader and you have been willfully voted into power, you have to at all costs succumb to whatever decision that political authorities superimpose on you. Unless in an unlikely event that you go for support, maybe prior to your elections, you go to them and they sponsor your elections, which I think is very, very not fair in our modern political space. I will say that every leader should distance themselves from such acts. You should stand as who you are. Let the people willfully vote you into power. To accept, even if they do not accept, there is that kind of potential leadership trait in you that you can still exhibit it. I am of the view that leadership is not in the position. You understand? I stand by that school of thought that it does not reside in the position. If you want to serve, you can serve devoid of position. So I think the political pressures from above, if you are that leader, when you have the position, you have control and you can stay by your virtues, your leadership virtues, without necessarily succumb to whichever authorities that are pressuring you to do things that goes contrary to what your constituents demand of you.
Okay, thank you. Nanekia, you are the Women's Commissioner for University of Ghana. How have you handled the political pressures that come as a leader?
Okay, so thank you very much. I think one, I would say that yes, there are a lot of political pressures that come in, but then again, it comes back to you as an individual, as a youth, and where you are really heading to. The issue of, I think initially I made a remark that we've sold our conscience to these leaders, and so they feel that regardless of where they are, regardless of the issue, they should be able to place a call and then you follow in their decision. But then again, if we as youth decide that yes, we make a decision out of conviction, such that on any day if you are being called upon, you can't really defend it and really stand by. Because I think when my elder brother was speaking, you could say that they meet as leaders, you decide something and Godfather called you and one listen to it. But it's come back to you as a person, it comes back to you as your focus, and come back to you as a vision as you have. So if we are able to make decisions out of conviction, that you say, as I'm sitting here, this is the decision myself and the students have made, and this is what I'm standing by, regardless of who you are, then I think the elders may accept to really respect our decision, and then moving forward as a leader, I feel anytime the cause come, I decide to do is I reason with them, let them know from the perspectives we are coming, so that doesn't become just that it was a decision made out of vacuum, but rather interact with them, let these people know that okay, these and these are the reasons why I made this decision, and this is why I think your point of view wouldn't work in this situation. Once they know your reason being, I think really controlling you, it's really little in that regard.
Thank you, Ukia. Let's go to the audience and take some few questions. You in the audience, you can also join our discussion. If you have any issue directed to any of our panelists here, you can ask if it is a question, a comment, anything.
Thank you very much for a fruitful discussion. This one, the first one, I heard somebody saying you are given the hand to step up. I think it has clearly come out from the panel that what you are looking for, you may not get it. Are you sure? You are talking of the generation gap, and you are talking of these different views from administrators who are older than you, and the issue of the generation gap is at play. And those leaders who are there, if we even look at a national level, the old presidents don't want to go. Museveni actually jumped 3-4 times to show that he is still strong despite the age, saying that I won't go. So for me, the word of advice is simple. You will never get them stretching a hand of mentorship to you. Never, never in a million years, because they want to be there and you are actually disturbing them. So what you need to do is to mobilize yourselves. If I look at politics, because for socio-economic development and everything that we do, there's a bit of politics in it. So what you need to do is to mobilize yourselves. You have got an advantage of numbers, and also politics is a game of numbers. You can have more and more young MPs getting into the parliaments. That is very, very possible. Being ministers, our youngest president in France is how old? 41 years. We have in Uganda Bobby Wine, the musician, how old? 35, 36. We have Chamisa in Zimbabwe, 40 years old. We have Julius Malema in South Africa, less than 40 years old. So, this is your time. That is my message. It's coming naturally on its own. We want you on board because you have the energy. You have the ICTs and what is in the 21st century. We are moving into the 22nd century, and we need to move with you. The age is also right. I also want to support the issue of your heart's conviction. And I wanted to ask him to give us an example where you can't decide whether to go with management or to go with the students. If what is the students are demanding is right, and you know it's right and it's not mischief, why don't you continue to support your constituents and continue, as she said, to maybe try to explain and present your case until they get it? I've said too much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Violet.
Yeah, thank you. I am IFP alumni. As we had culture of social justice teachers, I'm coming from the side of an educationist. Young people, we are for the future, and they are looking up to us. But when I come and look at beginning from where we are trained, we come in again with dishonesty. We lack integrity. We, as the old one, give us grades we don't deserve. So we don't prepare ourselves very well. When we are incompetent, then how do we get the courage to say that it is our turn, let us take up the place? So we should prepare ourselves very well, give ourselves the education that we need, and cultivate and develop the skills that we need so that we can take over the place. So I throw it back to us, to you, that let us build ourselves in the honest way, then we'll have the right skills, and then we can start with the voice and with the skills that we have. But we cannot tell someone when we don't have, when we know he has helped us with what we are having now. So we don't have the God to say, yes, get up and I will take the place because I am ready for it now. The person knows that you don't have it. So let's look at that side also. We are teachers. Some of us are still training. So let us come with honesty and take what it is, then we can have the voice to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. We will take 2 additional questions and that will be it.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Evans Accra, and then I would like to make a comment on the discussion we're having. Okay, I think for now, as the youth, sometimes I say we are in a softening generation right now, because most of us are not self-disciplined, and that's one thing that is that's not making us to step forward to take up leadership positions. Now, a lot of the youth have this mindset that leadership is for the big men. It's never true. It's never true. I think it's high time that we all rise up as a youth and be out there to take up leadership and then do the right. And we are lacking authentic leaders right now, because the focus that we have when we are coming into power, we are being deterred from that focus the moment you get that power we get that power. And that is not the way forward. We need to have authentic leaders. Leaders, look, we are servants. We are nothing but servants of people. And that should be the focus. And nothing more. If we focus on serving, then our true purpose will be accomplished. If we focus on giving our best when we come into power, I think it will go a long way to bring a whole lot of development and all that. But if we allow the luxury and all those things to corrupt us, then that's not the way forward. And I think corruption in itself, we should have that anti-corruption mindset to fight off corruption. I always say that, you see, when all of us are having this anti-corruption mindset, that, okay, if this guy is corrupt and wants to maybe engage you in a corrupt activity, you don't give in to that. He goes to another person, he doesn't do that. I mean, when we are all having this anti-corruption mindset, corruption will be eliminated from what? From Ghana and even in Africa as a whole.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just a quick one. She was talking about presidents of nations who are refusing to go even when they can't walk. But then we should also remember that I think last week, or I don't know, there was a news item about retiring age. Well, I believe that part of the unemployment problems we are having is for those of us who are above 60, who have managed to reduce our ages and are making sure that, we talk about the old men presidents, but we should also realize that the CEOs and the big managers and directors who have reduced their ages and are not productive, and the young people are there, fresh ideas, fresh energy to move in, and they won't allow them. So if Africa wants to develop, then we should also not only think about overaged presidents, but we should also think about overaged CEOs refusing to move and want to die on the job. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello. Yeah, I would like to contribute a bit on the part of living room for mistake making. It is said that if you really want your children to live up to be a healthy adult, you need to let them, you need to let them play first whilst they are children. You know, the issue of mistake making is something that has really baffled me a lot with respect to our education in Ghana in general. And I'm looking at it from even our homes. When you are a child and it's like you make a mistake, what I have learned from what they call through my education is, or through what I've been told is, if you make mistakes, it helps you to learn from certain things. But unfortunately, if you come to even our homes, if a child does something and it's like it needs to be corrected, I mean, in a very, with all the parental love, you can imagine how it goes. So it's like it always puts fears in the children or in the child, and preempt the child from coming out, what they call, with any God-endowed talent that the child has. That's what I would like to say. But in addition to that, with the issue as to whether we, the youth, are prepared, we can look all around us that globally, that like we have, if what they call the world is a competitive state, then globally we have people who have really taken the lead, like the Europeans, like what they call in the case of the French, people having a very youthful president, that of Canada, and among many nations. I think we are more, what they call, we the African youth, since we are the majority, we are, we are more than even them with respect to those who are more prepared. So it's up to the leaders to give us the room also to exhibit our given talent. That's what I would like to say.
Thank you very much. We will end here for the questions and suggestions and then take the final words from our panelists. Let me start from you, Joseph. Dr. Violet asked the question of whether you've been involved in a situation where you had to choose sides between management and your people. So you briefly touch on that, and also you give us a 1-minute submission of the mindset that the youth are supposed to have going into the future.
Thank you very much. Yes, there has been such an instance, and I will have to stand by the students, because on the principle that they put you there and you can't do much than to serve them, especially when what their convictions are is nothing by the right thing to do. So the way forward will be that you constantly engage management to bring them to speed, to understand reasons why you will have to stand by the students and not management. Then on my last submission, I think I will also associate myself with Madam Violet on the score that yes, it's high time we will have to mobilize ourselves. We have the numbers, and there has to be that revolution that will have to stand up and say no to giving power, limiting ourselves to where we are, giving power to the elderly, especially when you see that these people are no more productive in serving our people. They get to a point that you realize that not much ideas comes from them. They keep to they are always within their little confines, and they make the country kind of ungovernable. No development stuff goes on. But we, the youth, I believe nowadays, given the current terrain, in form of technology and globalization, there are a lot of innovative ideas that we have. And if the opportunity is not given to us to come up with it, then it makes us nothing. But we just have to keep ourselves to the status quo that we think that we need to change. So I believe that it's high time that we come as a unified body and rise up and let the elderly know that yes, we are prepared, and it should be driven by integrity and other ethical principles that they will also repose that kind of trust into us.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you. I believe that our mindset henceforth should be African youth, African young people, be awake to what really matters. We act like there's nothing happening in our continent, even in our countries. And I want to say that this is a multi-stakeholder approach. Our parents play a role in this, from our homes to our schools. How many times does your parents tell you that my son or my daughter, wise up, Ghana is expecting you to be great, or Africa needs your support or help. We've not had that sort of inspiration from them, so our lives are a bit skewed to what we feel to do. But if parents play a role to this, that conscience is driven. I remember I formed a group on campus called Drive Africa. We were 11,400, 5 students. We said that we would voluntarily step up and then clean our environment and influence other colleagues also to buy into this idea. We didn't wait for any political party to empower us. We empowered ourselves to do this. And that is awake to what really matters. And when I put the picture on Facebook, my dad was like, "Thank you, my son. Ghana is really proud of you." And I was so proud that this notion is being trickled in my head that Ghana looks up to me. Then from henceforth, all my actions and my deeds will be Ghana-driven and Africa-driven as well. And that's what I want to inspire everybody here, that live like a national man. Live like a continent figure. And if you do that, Africa will have people with that kind of common mindset and protect our nation. The corrupt, the bad deeds, the immorality is too much in our continent. And if we want to be honest, if we want to be rich human resources in our country, that the world says that in the next 25 years, Africa will be that pool where we'll find the best talent to run organizations, then this is the time we have to structure ourselves to make that perception a reality and make that aspiration a reality. We should be awake to what really matters.
Thank you, Benjamin. The next we are awake. What do you also say?
So I would stand by starting with our team. So looking at where we are moving to, I feel the first thing is that we have to develop ourselves as a youth. And developing ourselves, we have to build capacity. I think there are social medias, but we see our youth go only WhatsApp, only. But if we really want to take over Ghana, then it's about time we have to study. We have to really prepare ourselves, get the books, aside the books, get more or less. Now, even the spirit of volunteerism is off. But if we are really willing to push into the system, get ourselves there, prepare ourselves, get on job training as well, I feel like moving forward, Africa will be good. Now, the next thing I would also look at is that we have to understand the vision. Yes, we are looking at taking over Ghana, but the question is that what are we taking over to do? I think as it stands now, the youth feel, okay, it's our time to lead, but they don't even understand the vision of Africa. If you look at those people call themselves Nkrumahs, everything, you could see that we rarely see youth in there. There are people, these are old people, because we do not understand the spirit of the whole Africa, where we are heading to. So I think that the fundamental way of going is one, understanding the African vision. After understanding it, then the best thing is that we develop ourselves as youth to take over what we've understood. And I think moving forward, we'll be able to really take over Africa in the next future.
Thank you, Akuya. Adontin.
Okay, so I quite remember some few years ago, there was someone who had contested for a position in the SRC, not on this campus, campaigned, moved from hostel to hostel, from class to class, campaigned. Eventually, the person won, given the position. Now, work, it has become a problem. So I was there in my room when this person called me that, Samuel, I'm finding a lot of problems working. I don't even go to the office. I think it's the devil doing this to me. Please pray for me. Which devil would allow you not to just walk to the SRC office and put something that you had already promised during your campaign into fruition? So I believe that, as the GRASA president said, it's an issue of trust. If given the nod, can we actually do the work? So the issue is that it's our problem is our own selves, the youth, we ourselves. That even amongst ourselves, the National Union of Ghana students, go and see how it's looking like. We are fighting amongst our own selves. Who will ever take us serious? So if we are not serious ourselves, if we are not committed ourselves, then I'm sure nobody will be willing to give a helping hand. If anybody is willing to give a helping hand, and it's probably because they have ulterior motives to help you. They want to use you to get what they want. That is why they are helping you. So if we don't build capacity, if we don't eschew the values of integrity, honesty, truthfulness, we are going nowhere. Lastly, my submission is that moving forward, the spirit of volunteerism, the spirit of volunteer. I remember when I was in school, I had a club, I was running a club on campus, and I had a program. The gentleman called me that he wanted to do the opening session to talk about finance. I said, wow, that's fantastic. So in the evening, he called me again that, how much am I willing to pay? And I told him that, Master, I am running a club basically on no finances. And you rather called to tell me that you want to do the opening session. So how do you expect me to pay you? I didn't even pay him. I didn't even call him again. He came that day and he even messed up, making people sleep at the program and things like that. So I think that one of the most important things is that we should be able to do free work. Doing free work as of now, Dr. Asamoah said something that we should be able to ensure that whatever we are doing as of now, we are good at it. And I'm sure if we are good at it, there is nowhere that we cannot fit into. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Chumasi?
Okay,
final
thank
submission.
you. I would want to ask a question. How many of us here will want to be the Nchibo Siakon of our time? When we say Nchibo Siakon, this is a popular history behind the Ashanti Kingdom. That when Okomfo was about bringing down the golden stool, he asked that they get 3 chiefs. One of them will be buried alive. And Nchibo Siakon went forward and said, I will be buried alive. How many of us here would want to sacrifice now for the future and betterment of Africa? Arise, Africa youth. The future is now.
Thank you very much. Please, you can do better. Clap for my panelists. Arise, awake. Those are some of the running issues in our discussions. We will take our final and closing remarks from our chairman, Dr. Asamoah.
Thank you very much. It's been very insightful. I think that the deliberations have been spot on, and I'm particularly excited to be chairing this particular session. I just have a few words for all of us. We started by suggesting that we are looking at 50 years from now. I think that with what is going on in the countries in Africa, in 50 years' time, we all die, and there wouldn't be any young people because things are not progressing as we expect. We see a lot of hunger. I don't see why we should be talking about shortage of water, no food, electricity is a problem in this day and age. So 50 years from now, I can bet that we'll probably not be in existence anymore. We can't wait. And I think that empowering the youth is key. Now, if we think that the older generation will give us what belongs to us, in fact, they actually think that nothing belongs to you. So if you think that you are going to get something, then forget it, because you won't get anything. They want to keep as much as possible, and they are not ready to relinquish anything to you. Now, if you don't take things yourself, you will get nothing. And one of the things that they will do will be to break your front, to succeed in buying your conscience, for you to become their zombies and to toe their line. Once they succeed in doing that, you are finished. Growing up, we knew of NUGS, National Union of Ghana Students. Where are they? They are almost dead. These days, when decisions are being taken, no young association is consulted. Look around in Africa. When decisions are going to be taken, they won't consult young people because they don't respect you. And it's because they have succeeded in buying your conscience. They think that you are irrelevant. Let me tell you from today that the older generation are afraid of you people. They are afraid because they know that you constitute a larger percentage of the population. So if you rise up, they are finished. So they will succeed to break your front, no unity amongst you, and when that happens, they don't need to consult you, and they will sit at their high horses and take decisions without your input and force those decisions on you. If you don't rise up and stay united, you can get nothing. And take it from me. And I also advise the older generation, stay away from the young people. Allow them to do what they want to do. Let them make the mistakes. They will learn from it. Stay away from them. Let them live their lives the way God has purposed for them. I would ask the nooks, as it stands now, to stop that nonsense. You see, because what they are succeeding in doing is to spoil generations unborn. Because if it continues like this, then there will not be any voice for any young people. And that will be dangerous. If we really want young people to take up the reins of power, then they will need to be equipped and stay united. It's interesting because we have not mentioned the role of young women in leadership. I have witnessed instances where, professors, male professors, educated, will not want to pay school fees for their children to go to school. I believe that if we're able to educate more young women, the generations unborn will have a better future. In the sense that if a woman is not educated, they are more willing to sell everything that they have to ensure that their children get education. But some men who are educated will rather use their money for something. And these are things that I have seen. We should invest in young women. And I think that we can succeed in changing a lot of things. I am very passionate, very, very, very passionate about the unity of young people. You mentioned instances where we are discussing age of retirement. Nobody has consulted any young group in Ghana as we speak now. Meanwhile, that decision has an effect on you. Whether you secure a job will depend on whether there's a vacancy there. And if the people there are not willing to move, you are finished. It means no job for you. So I think that the key is to stay united, to push an agenda for yourself. Now, if you are supposed to meet management, and I think you raised that point, on anything, make superior arguments. Make superior arguments and let them know that you know what you are talking about. It is not the case that anytime there's a problem, then you jump out and say, I'm demonstrating, I'm going on a Luther. What argument have you put across to state your position? If you don't have a position and you have a weaker argument, that is when you start going out there to demonstrate. I'm not saying demonstration is bad. All I'm saying is that try to use your mind to make superior argument based on rich information. And they will respect you. Your decisions will be respected. Your views will be respected because you know what you are talking about. If you know what you are talking about, nobody will take you for granted. You have the power in you. Let it come out and build yourself, and you can make a difference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mensah. Thank you, incredible panelists and invited guests. Thank you for listening. I'm Schenineda Ankomah, your moderator.
Thank you very much, Dr. Asamoah, the chair, Schenineda Ankomah, the moderator, and all the panelists. I think we would agree that this session has been very interactive, very interesting. We've learned quite a lot. Shall we please give them a round of applause? I think they did very, very well. And from the discussions, it's been clear that the youth really have a lot to do to be able to really grab and possess the future, because the future is actually theirs. But as we've been saying, I think in our discussion, we kept saying 50 years from now. But we should rather look at what exactly can we start doing even from now. We shouldn't wait till 50 years. It is what we start doing on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly, on a yearly basis, which when we put together and we accumulate it would have a stronger future. So let's start doing something from now. On that basis, we will end this session and then quickly move to start the next session. And the next session is on women and girls' participation in leadership. Dr. Asamoah said he was surprised it wasn't coming up, but it's really the main topic of discussion for the next session. So, but we are also aware that people are quite hungry, so we are not breaking. We are starting the next session, but we want all of you to quickly move to the back, grab a cup of coffee and tea, and then come back and let's start. The doors will be locked, no one is stepping out. We are just grabbing our coffee and tea, and then we'll come back and start the next session on the discussion of women's participation in leadership.